Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here and thanks for checking out my podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell for new episodes. You can also find Shine Without Shame on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Today, my guest is Krystal Starr. Krystal has worked as a meditation teacher, chakra expert, and life coach for over 15 years. She has studied with multiple spiritual leaders such as Swami Kriyananda, Nayaswami Asha, and more. She has written 2 books and is currently writing her third, The Chakra Code, which is due to be released in 2021. She has recorded 7 meditation CDs with singing bowls, created multiple meditation apps, a meditation wearable device, and is coming out with an Amazon Prime series in 2022. Krystal is the owner of iChakra Smart Healing Center in Los Altos, California, where she teaches daily meditation classes and offers chakra balancing to her clients and students. Thanks so much for joining me, Krystal. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, Tiffany, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it as well.
Lovely. Well, I always like to begin and let the audience know how I know my guest. And I'm happy to share that I've known you for, I believe, a few years. I went into your store and got to work with you and have worked with you and still am in terms of meditation and chakra balance work. And I think it was a few years ago now. And it seems like it's been a lot longer, actually.
It does. It feels like I've known you for so long. Let's see, if iChakras has been open for 4 or 5 years, then it must be at least, 3 or 4 years or something like that.
I think so.
Maybe not as long as that. But yes, we met here at iChakras, and I just feel like I'm so grateful to have got to know you and develop our spiritual connection. I can't remember the exact day now, and I'm trying to remember that first day that you walked in. But it's been a wonderful journey with you since then.
I feel the same way. Yes. It's been very sweet. Yes, it's been a beautiful last few years. I've been grateful for our connection. Well, what I am wanting to explore with you, as you know, my podcast is about shame and the culture of shame. I'd really love to hear about your experience in the work you do with shame, with people who are dealing with shame, who are being held down or held back by it. Would love to know, what is it that you've witnessed? What is it that you've seen shame, how you've seen shame sort of keeping people from being their best selves, holding them back, keeping them from moving forward and living in, that happy, joyous place. So I thought I would start by asking you, in your work, what kinds of shame do you see people experiencing?
Oh gosh, shame runs so deep, and it affects people in such um, complex ways. Shame normally stems from the way you were brought up as a child. I see that when someone is not taught or brought up in an environment where they could learn to love themselves, unconditionally love themselves, then it seems like what happens is that all their flaws, whatever they may be, and we all have flaws, they stand out in a way where it makes the person feel like their flaws are just so alien, so different than other people's flaws, and something that they have to hide from the world. And then it just puts this huge block on the person. Whereas when you're taught to actually love yourself unconditionally, then you can look at that flaw, you can look at that thing that you may want to change and grow from, and want to change it in a loving, compassionate way. Be loving towards yourself and say, yes, I see that I may not like this about myself, but I still love who I am. And I love the journey that I'm about to take as I grow and change this thing. And as those changes happen, you just love yourself more and more and more. So I think that's really stems from is having that love for yourself, having that respect for yourself. I've seen that shame could be in the smallest things. It doesn't have to be this big epic thing. Like you use the word shame, you automatically think of something horrible, right? But it's not necessarily that way. It could be something so small. It could just be not feeling worthy of love or success for no reason. You can't even pinpoint why. And that seems to be what it actually runs a lot deeper, when the person can't really pinpoint why they're holding on to this shameful feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And it would take a lot of courage for someone, or it does take courage to take a look, to trust the process of taking a closer look at yourself and getting clear. Um, so I can appreciate what you're saying. It can affect your life in so many ways, and like you're saying, it doesn't have to be related to necessarily a traumatic event or
Yes.
a traumatic environment that you might have lived in, although it very well could be that. But it seems like it's like a little sneaky. It can be pervasive. In other words, it can be a little low level. I wonder if that's also um, something you've witnessed. So in other words, it is maybe something that is so small, but it's not so obvious maybe to some people that they're dealing with shame. Maybe it's just they've always felt, or maybe for a while they felt that something, they weren't as happy about some area of their life, or as excited about pursuing a certain path. And maybe that I'm wondering if that is something you've witnessed, that shame could be at the root of that. um but again, maybe in a way that isn't always, like you said, obvious, but it could be something that's just so low level that you may not even think, I need to check this out.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. When it's something that they've always held on to, it becomes a part of their personality. They don't even realize that it's there. A lot of the time, people are reaching out because they know they're dealing with something and they want someone to help them deal with this feeling of shame or lack of being worthy enough. But a lot of the time, no, people grow up with it in a way where it just becomes a part of life. And if you don't know what you're dealing with, then how do you know how to reach out? How do you know how to get help, where to get help, what to say in order for someone to actually know how to help you?
Right. And how do you notice, or how are you aware of shame affecting people on an emotional level, a physical level, even a spiritual level? What have you witnessed? What have you noticed about shame and how it affects people in those aspects of life?
Well, we hold shame right below our belly button and above the pelvic bone. This is where we hold all of our emotions. Whether they're good emotions, whether they're bad emotions, that's where you hold it. Now, the good stuff could be like passion and excitement and seeing the beauty in life. But then there's the opposite of those emotions, which are shame and guilt and depression and all of these things that drag us down. So we hold it right there, and it affects that part of our body. So your digestion, your reproductive system, intimacy, uh, all of that area, even your kidneys, your liver, it's all affected by that area where you hold your emotions. But that chakra, every chakra really, controls an aspect of your mind, of your body, and your spirit. So shame is going to affect you on all three levels: your mind, your body, and your spirit. So we covered the body part. In your mind, it makes you put up this block, right? This block where you feel like you're just so different from everyone else around you, and the things that you're dealing with are unacceptable to society. So you have to put up a wall, and then that therefore means that you're not letting people in. Your relationships are not as fruitful, they're not as satisfying, because you're not giving all of yourself. You don't think that that part of yourself will be accepted by the other person. And that's something that happens subconsciously without you even realizing what you're doing. And then, you'll sit down and you'll say, well, why aren't I satisfied in my relationships? Why aren't I connected to anybody? Why doesn't anybody love me? But you don't even realize that you're not giving anyone a chance to love you, because you're hiding the parts of yourself that you think are ugly. Spiritually, my gosh, it could affect you in a lot of different ways. But I find that most of the time it creates a block in feeling spiritually connected to a higher power, which I call God. You could use any label you want here, but I'm comfortable with the word God. Now, if I have something in my sacral like shame, then there's a part of me that feels so shameful, I won't even be able to meditate or pray because, my gosh, who am I to pray? Who am I to receive blessings and miracles and all this blissful energy? I'm too shameful to be that vulnerable with this higher power. And that could really affect us on a lot of levels.
That sounds like a powerful thing. Yes. And it's the sacral chakra. Is that right? That you're referring to in terms of where shame
Yes,
hangs out
the
in the
sacral.
body. Sacral. Okay. Yes. I think, well, there's so many things to say about people's uh experience with shame and all the ways that it can affect one's life. And do you do you think that it's challenging for people to move away from shame? I mean, in other words, do people maybe, even though it's not a positive um existence to like live in shame or to feel shameful, at least not all the time. It doesn't seem like that would, of course, be anything that is positive. But do you think that people sort of almost get like addicted to it or used to it? And is it harder to move away from shame?
Yes.
Oh, please say
Yes.
more
You
about
took,
that.
oh my gosh, Tiffany, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, okay.
It's so addictive. That's the
Mm,
perfect word to use. And it sounds horrible, right? I sound terrible saying this, but the negativity of shame is unfortunately very addictive because human beings, and again, I'm going to sound terrible saying this, but it's the reality that we live in. Human beings are addicted to darker, more negative energy. And when we don't have it, we'll search for it. If no one's making us feel shameful or badly about ourselves, we will therefore go and search for that negative thing and do it to ourselves. You could give a person 10 positive opportunities or situations or positive things in their life, and it will affect them a certain percentage, right? In a positive way. Give them one thing to feel shameful about, and they will drop so much more percentage wise, emotionally, spiritually, physically. That one negative thing will completely overwhelm them to where those 10 positive things made no difference whatsoever. And it went right out of their mind. So,
hmm,
yeah, negativity is addictive in general,
hmm.
but especially shame, and especially if it's something that you grew up with, especially if it's something that you were taught to hold on to, then you feel like you deserve it. You feel like that's who you are. So giving a person a different reality is actually uncomfortable. The reality they think they want, they're actually not accepting it subconsciously. It's awful, but it's the reality of the way a human mind and a human body works.
Right. That's a lot to think about. As anyone who has done any, you know, healing work or just at the very least become aware of their thoughts, their feelings, their challenges, feeling like
Right,
held back or
exactly.
um yeah, just feeling unhappy in areas in life. That it's a lot to consider. And I mean, I know in your work that's why you're doing what you're doing. You're offering a service to people so they don't have to do this alone, and that there are tools I know that you use because I've used them with you that really do, I think, address all of those mind, body, spirit imbalances. But for people who, because, I think some people listening to this will definitely be interested in uh, the idea of chakra work or um, meditative work or just healing, that kind of body mind healing work in general. And some people may not be interested, maybe because of the perception they have of the kind of the new age approach to healing. For those people who may not be interested, and I realize it may simply be because they just don't understand what it's all about. Would you give just an overview of the chakra system and how you work with it, and sort of what, whether someone were to work with you or just on their own, just kind of explore what would they kind of be looking for, or what would they need to get to that deeper healing if they were to do chakra work or even meditation, something that's a little
Yeah.
more common to people.
Well, you picked the right subject, Tiffany, because I could talk about this for hours.
I'm sure.
This is a topic I love because holistic healing, new age healing, meditation, chakras, it's almost got like this bad, I mean, it's become very, very trendy now and a lot more popular than it used to be, but it still has that little bad reputation for being, oh, I don't believe in that stuff. Oh, I don't like that stuff. I don't understand that. And my whole mission with eye chakras was all about that. It's all about bringing science and actual scientific studies into what I do. So that's why we started reading the brainwave activity during meditation, so that we could literally show a person, this is what's happening when you do a spiritual healing. When you could read a person's brainwave activity and do the spiritual healing and show them the raw data. This is what your mind is doing during a spiritual healing. And this is what your mind is doing when you're not doing a spiritual healing. The data is right there. You can't help but see that. When you correlate your physical pains or issues or illnesses with what you're feeling emotionally, and you see that it all lines up perfectly, you can't help but open up and realize, oh, there's something to this. For example, a person falls down and sprains their ankle or hurts their back at the same time that maybe they were moving or moving to a new job or got fired. That's your root chakra. Your root chakra controls those areas of your body. When you're dealing with shame and you have a lot of digestive issues, or you have issues with reproduction system or anything like that, you realize, wow, these two areas correlate to each other. This is not a coincidence. And it really opens up that whole idea.
I think it does. Right. And I think the science is one aspect of it, like you said, grounded in science. But I think, at least in my experience, also in this work, recognizing that what is going on physically, emotionally is also, there's another component. There is this kind of energetic or spiritual component that, if you pay attention, you're like, oh yeah, that is also happening. Huh? Is that
Yep.
is that a coincidence? Okay. And when I've worked with you, I've learned that it's not, but I do appreciate how that is, like, in other words, a person can sort of, even if they didn't have the help of chakra work, or even if they didn't even bother to meditate, but they just, or meditate in a way, I guess, that's sort of stereotypical, sitting, in lotus position with their fingers and their little positions. I
Yeah.
even if they didn't do that, but they just sat or wrote in their journal or just sat and thought, here's what's going on in my life. I've got this issue or this challenge. Here's what's going on in other areas of my life. And here's, like, my sleep, is my sleep good or not so good? Okay. And they, and how am I feeling about, how am I feeling about my life? And if somebody were just to kind of sit and think about that for a bit, I think it can become obvious that everything is connected, and that one aspect of life influences another. And that is my hope, that people do become more open and not worry if they're being trendy or not, not because it's about your own life and your own well-being. Who cares what other people are doing? I mean, they're not living your life. They're not responsible for your life. So in my mind, I'm always interested in tools. What tools are out there that can help me feel better, me feel more connected to myself, help me feel more joy and just happy about my life. So I want to also promote that, and be a purveyor of tools for others who might be open to them. But I can appreciate that. Yeah, some people are just, not interested, or just think that there's something weird about it. But even
Yeah,
I think about I think about when people have a stomach ache. This is not something that you've taught me or anybody. I've just realized, oh, people have a tummy ache, they rub their stomach. And that, in your realm of work, that is energy work. You don't have to call it energy work, but there is something that we instinctively know we need to do, or we want to, we're drawn to do, to kind of help ourselves feel better.
yes.
Like, that to me is such a small but like really good example of how we all sort of do our own energy work without knowing. Or if we have a headache, we rub our temples or press on our temples, and I'm sure that's connected to, so I know it's connected to, acupressure and other kind of aspects of I guess what others would call alternative healing. But we, as
Yes.
humans, it's already a part of our design. I think it is. You tell me
It's
what you think.
instinctual.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like we're born with this instinct. When I was having some sort of issue with my body, I would go into a yoga pose, but I was a child. Yoga wasn't even really popular back then. I had no idea about yoga at the time, but I would put myself into tree pose because
Hmm.
it felt more comfortable, but this was instinctual.
Mm-hmm.
I would put my finger right here, hovering above right where the third eye is, feeling the frequency there, not really understanding anything about Reiki or acupressure points or any of these things, but it's instinctual. And I think we all have an element of that, even if you are not intuitive or even if you don't believe in these types of things, we do it without realizing. And we could even notice negative energy in our body associated with stress or negativity. Like you go through a heartbreak, right? Someone just really, someone that you love just really just destroys you. And you'll say, oh my gosh, I could feel the pain in my chest. My heart actually hurts. Well, there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why your heart actually hurts. Or, I'm so stressed out, it's giving me a stomach ache. Well, there's a reason for that. That's energy right there in
Mm-hmm.
the most plain, simple form, but that's energy.
Right. Yeah, that is important to call out, I think, because listen, if everybody could just on their own just heal themselves, just by walking around and doing nothing, then I'd say, great, keep doing what you're doing if that's working. But I don't think it's working. I don't think
Yeah.
that people are taking care of themselves. And I care about humanity. I want to see people, and I want to know people uh, doing better, that they're doing well, and that they are addressing whatever needs to be addressed. And um, it's just interesting. Yeah, I always just wonder, okay, if for people who are not open to these alternative modes, I ask the question, okay, but is what you're doing working for you? Are you
Yeah.
physically well? Are you physically well? Are you emotionally feeling, even keeled and happy? And I mean, there are days where we all get rocked off course, and that's okay. But if you're talking about long term, chronic, and you have never addressed that, then my heart goes out, and I just hope and wish that people just open up. And I think people are opening up to other ways, other methods, and exploring and saying, okay,
Yes.
well, this hasn't worked, or my family always did this, whatever, maybe my family always went to this one doctor and we're going to do that forever. Okay, great, wonderful. But if there are things that aren't getting addressed, maybe maybe you don't have to switch doctors. It maybe you want to look into other methods of taking care of yourself. So for me, that's what I like to encourage, and to also, I guess, illustrate even through our conversation that healing work, if that's what we want to call it, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to worship. You don't have to worship a person. You don't have to worship the person who's doing the work. That's my big thing. Is I've always said, whoever I work with, not that I've worked
It's
with
not a
that many
guru.
people.
They're not some guru. They're not a god. Just
Yes,
like you wouldn't worship a doctor, you wouldn't worship your therapist either. You go to them for their expertise, and then you go home and you live your life. You take what you learn from them and you bring it out in your life. You know, you do the same thing when you go to school. You don't worship your teacher. It's the same thing.
right.
But I think so many people have took advantage of their position
Mm-hmm.
in this area that it's developed that theme. So I have to put that out there too. You know, a lot of people have abused that space. So it makes sense that people are wary, but I think you just have to be careful of making sure that you trust the person you're going to for help,
Yes,
that they're not taking advantage of you.
yes. That that couldn't be more true, and I can speak from experience in my work with you and with others who offer healing services, that it really is about, it's kind of the back to the basics. Like, do I feel comfortable around this person? Do, even though it's a little scary to have to open up and reveal myself and be vulnerable, but like, do, are they really looking out for my best interests? Is it about
Yes.
my work, or is it about them? And that's where I
Yes.
really start to get clear and assess. And if it's about them, then I will usually move on, because that's not that's not going to help me. I'm not paying them so that they can make themselves feel better and look better, uh, look good. So that, I appreciate you saying though that also the reality is that some people have taken advantage of that. So it is about trusting yourself to make good decisions about what just feels right. Back to those
Exactly.
basics. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, in terms of taking steps, if somebody's listening now or watching the video later, or watching the video, and they want to start somewhere with personal well-being in the mind, kind of mind body spirit realm, what what would you advise in terms of first steps, in terms of, even if it's whether or not it's starting to work with someone, even if they don't take that step first, like what can people do to start to take care of themselves and address what they need?
If they don't know how to meditate,
If they don't know how to meditate, or if they uh just are interested, or want to explore the energy work, whether it's
right.
meditation or chakra balancing, but they may not be ready to start with working someone. What steps could they take to really make a difference?
I actually, and you're gonna think this is a funny answer, but I actually don't recommend starting with meditation.
Oh,
And the reason
okay. Good,
the
good.
reason I say yeah, the reason I say that, I know that sounds funny coming from a meditation teacher, but the reason I say that is because when you just Google how to meditate, you'll get all of these answers that are so vague and intimidating and contradicting. And that will end up throwing you off and making you think, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I don't know how to do this. So I would start off with something else, something that is more blunt, something that is more targeted to your specific needs. You could see and hear the effects immediately. And that will kind of put your foot in. And then once you feel that, meditation becomes a lot less intimidating. Like, let's say, singing bowls, binaural beats, affirmations. These are things that you can't do wrong. And with meditation, so many people just think, I'm doing it wrong, which you can't do it wrong. Um, but people are going to feel that way anyway. So it's just the wrong area to start in. Starting with these other tools will give you the tools that you need without any intimidation, because you could do these things while brushing your teeth, while working, having it on in the background, and you can't do it wrong. And you'll see those effects so immediately. It'll say, oh my gosh, how can I get more of this? And suddenly you'll have the courage to take more steps and take more steps.
Okay. So what I understood was the idea of starting with some other tools aside from meditation. So it would be maybe audio tools, so binaural beats or audio files or recordings of singing bowls. Okay. And you said something else. Sorry.
Affirmations are
Affirmations.
just yeah, it's just a great way of being able to, a lot of people are embarrassed to do this, but if you could get over that hesitation, speaking those powerful words out loud, even if you're just say it in the mirror and say it with a powerful, confident voice. I mean, you'll feel silly at first, but you'll feel the effects so strongly. You can't help but want to do it again and again and again and again, because it feels great once you get over that initial shyness.
And could the affirmations be something that people create themselves, or do they need to like go and look and find affirmations, like a source?
Either way, if
Okay.
you need to create your own affirmations because the issue that you're dealing with is really unique to you, then create your own. Say out loud the thing that you're missing from your life, the thing that you want to work on. Say it out loud in a way as though you already have it. Not, I want XYZ, not, I need XYZ. I am XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say those words, it actually changes the chemicals in your body and it changes the structure of your spirit. You actually gain XYZ. But if it's something that's a little more simple, like confidence or communication skills or feeling grounded, then you could look up some affirmations. And I think that would be good enough. But I guess it really depends on the situation.
Sure. Okay. Just wanted to give people an idea of those very first steps if they are taking those first steps. I do want
Yes.
to go back to the idea of meditation and it being intimidating, if you don't mind, because I know you and I have
Yes.
had some conversations about this, and I think you know already that I have some really clear opinions about meditation, about how I connect to meditation, and also how I think it can be a little bit of an unnecessary challenge for people. So I know I've shared with you that I've more in the last couple of years gotten into meditation, and I've done all kinds of meditation, where you sit and listen to someone guide you, or I listen to some sort of audio recording, and or even just sitting by myself and in quiet. Uh, but what I've experienced with meditation is a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And this actually came about when I invited a meditation instructor to come to my previous job and offer a meditation class, which overall was successful and people were happy about it. But what I started to notice as the weeks went on and I participated, I was getting more and more stressed and anxious. And I was telling some colleagues this, and they said, "What? That can't be. You're not doing it right. You're not supposed to be stressed out and anxious when you're meditating. You're supposed to be calm and peaceful." And I started to explore this and have conversations with other people who are more experienced with meditation. And I like watched a video and started to read about meditation. And I learned that there are different facets or different aspects of meditation. There is meditation that, and maybe this is always what meditation ultimately can do for you, that addresses your physical body. So it addresses your central nervous system. It calms you down. It lowers your heart rate. That's very real and that's legitimate. I know that people turn to meditation for that, uh, to get calmer, to feel more relaxed. But I noticed that I was experiencing something that felt different or looked different than that. And I learned that it was because I was actually really opening up to what my internal state was inside. So I was starting to kind of I was starting to like run into old memories and old feelings, and some of which they weren't very pleasant. But in and of itself, it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't a negative experience. It's just that I didn't have any context for why I was starting to feel so anxious and stressed. And I learned, oh, it's just because I'm getting in touch with, all these memories and old feelings and thoughts that I maybe haven't ever looked at or explored. So it was just bringing them to the surface. And then once I was able to, and with you, I was really able to hone in on my meditation practice, and I think gain more just more confidence and ability in that practice. And I was able to start to let go of what was in there. But I realized, oh my gosh, I think for some people, and this is just a hypothesis, but I think for some people, they use meditation, yes, to get calm, to relax, to clear, I guess, clear their mind. That's, which is a really tricky phrase that I know you you have some thoughts about. But I sometimes I'm thinking, I don't know if people are always able or willing to really sit with what they find inside, because it can be, I think, scary, and it can be intimidating. Not the meditating part of it, not the getting there, but once you're there, you don't know what you're going to find. Some of that stuff has never seen the light of day. And in the end, through this journey, I've been grateful. It wasn't always pleasant for me to feel those feelings. And like I said, I felt stressed and anxious at times, but it allowed me to take a closer look, acknowledge whatever was there, and then just kind of clear it out of the way. So I wonder what your thoughts are about this, because I think sometimes people maybe don't know that that's another aspect. Maybe it's all maybe it's all one experience, but I think sometimes people get scared to go inward and to really sit with what's there and address it, or at least acknowledge it.
Absolutely. It's the same reason why people are afraid of eating alone, of being alone for too long. You suddenly open up to parts of yourself that you hide, which brings us back to shame. Those little parts that we don't want anyone to see, including ourselves. We hide those things deep, deep, deep down. And when we're quiet and when we're alone, that's when you really have access to those things. But you can't heal anything unless you have access to it. I said this before to you, it's like trying to clean a closet, but the door is locked. You can't. You can't clean a closet if the door is locked. So meditation is about opening up the door and seeing what's inside, but everything that's inside is not always pretty. But I put that out there, but I also want to say something else that you touched on. You started to become anxious as you started meditating more deeply, whereas your coworkers didn't really understand what you're talking about. But there might be a difference between like getting a little self-conscious about meditating and thinking you're doing it wrong and getting distracted. Oh, I got to pay my bills. Oh, I have to go home and cook dinner. And your mind just kind of goes, right? And it doesn't really let you relax or clear your mind. That's surface, right? You're just meditating on the surface. You're just trying to slow your heart rate. You're trying to slow your blood pressure and really calm the physical body. But what you did was different, because that wasn't the same anxiety as surface anxiety, not knowing how to meditate.
Right.
You were healing. You weren't just meditating. You were actually healing on a much, much deeper level. So there's physically meditating and quieting your mind, and then there's going way deeper, opening up that door and cleaning what was inside. So when those memories started resurfacing and you started getting in touch with what was really there, you were cleaning up what was inside that closet. Most people have anxiety on just opening up the door. So that's really good. The part that you got to was really good. Not pleasant, probably, but good.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for adding more to that idea, because I I think that it's something that I do want to say more about to people, and share my experience, and encourage people to get further into the process. Again, I didn't know what I was doing at first. I mean, I didn't know that I was going deeper. I just thought, oh, I'm just dealing with a lot of stress. Okay. I think that I just intuitively sort of just, I was ready. I had the courage. I'll say it that way. I had the courage to go there. And I think that that's something that I do want to bring to other people, share that experience and just say, look, yeah, it's going to be a little rocky possibly in the beginning, but it's really in the end, it's to me the real reason why you even want to do that work is because you get free. You get free of a lot of stuff. And not all, I
Yes.
mean, not all of it was like heavy trauma. I mean, there were some traumatic memories and emotions, but some of it was just, just like you said, it's like a cluttered closet. It's just stuff gets piled in, it gets smashed in, and it's not all awful, but having to kind of face it is takes work. It takes some work. It takes fortitude. It takes patience, and so that's what I want to encourage people to do, is to go a little deeper into that process and know that, yeah, might be a little intense, but so nice. At the end of that tunnel, it really is nice and clear, light. The birds are chirping, sun is shining. There's always work to do. It's not like I've healed myself completely now and forever, but I am grateful that I had the courage. And then further along my path, I had someone like yourself to really help me stay in that space and not not peace out. I'm gone. I'm done. No, I don't need to do anymore.
Yes.
You were like, no, let's let's keep doing this because it's worth it. You've said that to me many times. So I've been so grateful for that. You have to have some sort of support and in that process, whether you have someone who is, a healing worker, or you just have a loving friend or family member or someone who can just encourage you, who understands a bit about that, experience of healing, and can encourage you to keep going because, whew, it's work. But if people are starting off with 20-minute meditations, I'm like, thumbs up. Please, no one misunderstand me that I'm saying it's a waste of time. I'm just offering the idea that there are other facets of the process
Exactly.
to explore.
Exactly. Yes, there's so much more to it than meets the eye when it comes to meditation. And I think so many people get so intimidated by that word that they miss the whole point. Does that make sense?
Yes. 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 Thank you for giving us these really beautiful ideas to think about, and possibly new ways of looking at this work, and hopefully people will feel more encouraged or more confident in
Yes,
this realm of work. Again, like chakra work,
absolutely.
meditation, these are all tools. That's the way I like to look at them.
Yep.
They're not my religion, although they're
They
very
are not a
powerful.
religion. No, they are not a religion. It's not something you worship. It is a tool that we have been given. We have been born with these tools, just like vitamins, just like the organs in our bodies are things that keep us healthy and alive, and we need to take care of them.
Yes. Yes, Crystal. Well, is there any last idea or anything that you want to share with people who are listening or watching and who may be curious or just ready to do a little bit more work?
Just not to give up. Don't give up on yourself. Look in the mirror. If you are holding on to shame, if you are holding on to something that just feels ugly, it feels like it's hurting you emotionally, mentally, or physically, look in the mirror and tell your reflection you're not going to give up because you love yourself, you love who you are, flaws and all. And then move forward and do something that feels good for you, not for anybody else, but for yourself. And just watch how that entire day goes a lot differently than yesterday.
That's so wise. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Of course. Yes, you have given us all a lot to think about, and I hope our conversation together has given people maybe a new way of looking at this kind of healing and self-awareness work. So, thank you so much. Before I let you go, as I always ask each guest, I want to ask you if you could recommend a TV show, new or old, doesn't matter. But if there's one show you recommend, doesn't mean it's your favorite show, but which one would it be and why?
Okay, so caught me off guard with this one, and I'll tell you why. I have two young boys. One is 2 and one is 7, which means that for the past 7 years, I have watched nothing but children's shows.
Right.
So I'm going to be answering on that level, if that's
Yes,
okay.
please.
I'm going to recommend Mary Poppins because she is the wisest, smartest, most beautiful role model I know.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't see that coming, but that makes so much sense. That's perfect.
She is strict. She is beautiful. She has a level of fun in everything that she does. And no matter if the situation is good or bad, she knows how to move forward and encourage the people around her without putting them down or making them feel badly about themselves. So, my answer is Mary Poppins.
Love it. So true. Yes, she's practically perfect in every way. Wasn't that
There you go. Yes,
wasn't that her
practically
motto?
perfect in every way. Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, Krystal, thank you so much again. This has been a joy for me, and I've been happy to chat with you about something that I think for both of us is important and special.
Yes. Thank you for having me again, Tiffany. It was so nice to be here.